Hi again, this is Hugh, and now I'm going to talk with you about chapter 11 in my book, Past Lives. There are many theories about past lives, first of all, and you can imagine probably, and some people just shudder and say, no, no, it's not possible to live a past life. On the other end, you have people say, oh, absolutely, I've been past lives many times, and it's helping tremendously. And then you've got more in between. Some would say perhaps that if we experience a past life, we're just connecting with some universal energies. Others might say, well, no, it's the subconscious mind that is creating that past life. I've experienced past lives. I work with people who have experienced past lives, and my belief is that it's interesting, it's intriguing when you can go to a past life and gather information, especially information that is impacting you in this life in a negative way. So it's called karma. The karma can come forward from a past life and it can be good or not so good. So I think it's not so important that a person connects with a past life. The important thing is that past life can be used to correct something that it was reinforcing in a negative way in this life and send it back to the past life. And so that's what tends to happen when I work with people with hypnosis and they connect with a past life. Many books written about it, certainly. One of the first ones, and one still very compelling, is Dr. Weiss, and his book, in case you're interested, is still a very reliable book. Brian Weiss, M.D. Many lives, many masters. He had superb credentials as a psychiatrist and had been working for quite a few number of years with clients. And he had one client who he just was not making progress with, or not much progress, for 18 months using his traditional methods. And he finally almost like he reached his wit's end, and he said, "Well, I'm going to have to try hypnosis now." I don't know how little he knew about hypnosis, but he started using hypnosis with the client, and very soon everything opened up. This woman said at one point to him, she had had some past lives, and he's getting used to this concept now because he never even knew about that before. And at one point, she told him that she had lived 86 past lives, and she became a conduit from spiritual masters, bringing information down into this life and especially her life. So she started healing from whatever issue. He didn't say what her issue was, but she started healing. And then they sort of rode the tide. I don't think that they covered all 86 probably, but it was really making a noticeable difference. And he was so excited, but he was also apprehensive because he didn't know what to do with it at first. Did he get the word out? Would people just say, "Oh, you're just a crackpot"? That's not possible. But he took a chance. He wrote his book, and that was really the beginning of people hearing about past lives in a big way. So uh, the woman went on to, as I said, just heal completely. And he went on to become a national figure and maybe probably international as far as this new topic of past lives with all the uh, aspects of this one person and the many that she experienced. So I think the important thing is just simply that whether you agree with them or not, if you're open to the possibility, if you find yourself starting to have a past life, the important thing is that it can help you make a change in this life that's going to be a positive thing for you. I experienced past lives initially when I went to a hypnosis conference in the National Guild of Hypnotists in 1992. And back then, I was not a person who would raise a hand to be a volunteer, in front of a crowd. But for some reason, I did that time, and I got chosen. So I went down to the front of the room, and this hypnotist helped me go into hypnosis, and then just suggested that I might possibly be able to connect with a past life. And so, of course, when you're in a hypnotic state, you lose all concept of time. And it seemed to me that a few minutes went by. I don't know, maybe it was less than that, but it wasn't right away. And I was just waiting to see what would happen. And then I became aware of a white landscape, cold weather, and this figure trotting along, heavy furs, and pulling a sled. And on the sled was a harpoon and an axe, and that person was me, and I was an Eskimo. And I was going to this cove that I knew about where seals would come in, and they'd have to come up through the ice somehow and be there. And so the idea was to chop a hole in the ice, keep it from freezing up again, and have the spear ready so that I could spear a seal and bring it back to the igloo. And nothing happened. I was there all day. It was starting to get a little bit dusky, and I realized I better go back to the igloo. So that was my first experience. It was just an awareness of being in a past life setting, but nothing happening that was really a big positive awakening for me. But since then, I've been to many past lives in my own travels with hypnotherapy. And I've been oftentimes physically involved, but I was a slave one time building the pyramids. I was a gladiator in Rome. I was a street urchin, about 10 years old in Great Britain. I was a sailor on a square rig sailing ship. And the most interesting one was I was a colonial youth, maybe 18 years old, and our settlement was attacked by Indians, and I was captured and brought to the Indian camp, and I was made to run the gauntlet. And on our gauntlet is a long line of men and women and probably teenagers who formed this narrow path, and they had all kinds of weapons. And the idea was that they would try to hit the person who has to run the gauntlet and kill them. I mean, not many people survive the gauntlet. So it was my turn to do it. And I was thinking, I thought, well, I'd heard about gauntlets and I was going to do the best I could. So rather than just running through and just getting whacked and probably not even getting halfway through the gauntlet, I said, okay, I'm going to put into place some different things. So I decided I was going to start and stop and twist and turn and try to keep the people off guard so they didn't have a body that was just going down the middle that they could try to hurt. And so I got right to the end of the gauntlet, and I was not in good shape, but I was still alive, and I had a little more energy. And I get to the end, and here's this huge Indian standing there, like he was the last guard, and he had this big round war club, I would call it. And I said, "Oh no, what am I going to do?" So spur of the moment, I just ran right at him, and before I got right up to him, I darted to the side and kind of threw myself across the line that was the end of the gauntlet. But as I was falling across, he whacked me on the back of my head, and I went unconscious. I don't know for how long, but I was probably in the direction of being killed. But the native women nursed me back to life for over a 3 month period. And then I became a member of the tribe. And I just, and I've always had an affinity for Native Americans and for Eskimos and things like that. So that, it can be good in many ways, like that one was for me. So past lives, fascinating. If you want to read about them in my book, chapter 11, or, maybe Many Lives, Many Masters with Bruce Wise. But give it a shot. It may change your thinking.